Hi, my name is Karen Bissell, and I'm a student at Liberty University. This is my interpersonal communication project. What is interpersonal communication? Interpersonal communication is when people talk and listen in a personal way. It's easiest with two people that already trust each other, but it can also be with strangers or people that you have other relationships with. It can be good, such as a young wife telling her husband that they're pregnant, or it can be bad, like a doctor telling his patient that they have cancer, or a body shop owner telling a teenager the price of fixing the car that they ran into the mailbox. Conversations are all unique on their own. They're like snowflakes. No two conversations are ever the same. They're also unmeasurable. Emotions in the soul can't be measured. Conversations are also responsive. In an automatic world, objects don't react to you. Human responses are a laugh, a cry, an outburst of anger, and conversations are also reflective. Asking questions about communication. Are we making the right choices? Did we handle that the right way? They're also addressable. When you speak to someone, they respond to you. They're present with you. I have overarching goals for my communication. The first goal is realizing that speaking doesn't always equal power. We're trained to think that speakers equal power and listeners are weaker and passive. A lot of people try to withhold speaking as a form of punishment. Realizing that people are important and they need to be heard and acknowledged. People are important. They want to know that they matter. Listening to them is an act of respect and dignity, and acknowledging their feelings gives them a sense of self-worth. Avoiding the need to win conversations. The need to win a conversation makes everybody a loser. When the need to win an argument is fueled by insecurity and anxiety, it's about gaining power, not relationships. Overcoming this need to win requires self-examination and vigilance. Enlarging the conversation involves understanding, listening, and speaking, which is also known as inhaling and exhaling. Part of the understanding process is understanding who you're talking to and where their identity is coming from. You have to see past the stereotypes and cultural differences. Listening or inhaling is a mindful listening to their words and their body language to get the whole message. Aim your posture toward the person. Make natural and appropriate eye contact. Move responsibly, smile, nod, or frown, and make responsive sounds, like my personal favorite, no kidding. Ask open-ended questions, clarify the question or rephrase it, and gently recognize inconsistencies in someone's story. When you're speaking or exhaling, you should use self-disclosure appropriately and focus on the present and not the past. This deepens a relationship and improves the quality of the relationship. And it's based on self-awareness and self-acceptance. You should speak so people understand you. Don't speak in words and terms that they don't know. You're entitled to be heard, but don't be intimidated, because we're all equal under the Lord. It's okay to stand up for yourself. Share what's important to you. Don't fade into the background. Say what you mean. Say what you're really thinking and feeling, and say it directly and explicitly. Don't oversimplify the conversation, and don't exaggerate by using words like always and never. No one ever always does something or never does something. Some ways to enlarge the conversation, other ways to enlarge the conversation are to be interested, to ask open-ended questions and be genuine. Use good timing. Don't talk about serious issues at a casual event or try to have a conversation at a movie or concert where hearing is too difficult. Don't go into a communication situation unloaded. Have something to talk about to keep the conversation moving towards a meaningful goal. Expand your comfort zone. Learn about things that you don't know about. Take a risk sharing your story with others, or talk to that person who always sits by themselves at church or school. Our influences also influence our communication. My background is I am a 45-year-old woman. I'm a Christ follower and have been for most of my life. I'm 6 years older than my brother. My parents were authoritative, which means they were very responsive and highly demanding. They always had a positive climate. They were very supportive. They had very clear expectations, and they expected good behavior, but they weren't overly controlling. They encouraged our spiritual growth throughout our whole life. I'm also divorced from an abusive husband as of 10 years ago. I'm now remarried to a wonderful, godly man. I'm a cancer survivor for 15 years. When I put my mind to something, there is no stopping me. I always see the glass as half full and believe that most people are basically good with good intentions. I have some positive influences in my life as well. I'm very smart. I have a good sense of humor and I love to laugh. I have a strong support system in my husband, my parents, and my children. I'm fairly organized and I'm very faithful. I'm a happy and peaceful person and I tend to be very patient with others. I have an even personality pretty much all the time, except sometimes I do get a little moody. My negative influences are that I have a difficult time saying no. I'm a little too trusting of people sometimes, and sometimes they take advantage of me that way. I'm indecisive. I never can decide where we're going to eat for dinner, and I hold things in. I don't take a lot of risk, and I'm very passive in my personality. A behavioral blend is something called a DISC model, and it presents how a person thinks others see them and how they actually see themselves. The first graph shows how someone behaves around colleagues or casual acquaintances. The second graph shows how someone behaves around family, close friends, or people that they trust. My first graph on the behavioral blend is I'm a high S steady specialist. I feel that people want me to be sensitive and submissive, blend in with the crowd, be humble in spirit, and have a quiet demeanor. People tend to see me as a steady, stable person, always reliable, but not overly interesting. I found this to be the case for most of my life. I was and still am not the kind of person to stand out at a social gathering. When I was a child, I avoided conflict often and protected my friends fiercely, even sometimes getting into trouble on my own, for myself to protect them. My first marriage was very abusive from the very beginning, and I did everything I could to keep the peace at home. It's only over the past 10 years or so that I've started to see myself as being different, see myself differently. The second graph is how I see myself. I'm a high SCI, confident influencing specialist. I see myself as a friendly people pleaser with a flexible attitude. I have a live and let live attitude most of the time, and I'm equally as comfortable being a leader as a follower. I love being happy, although I can feel deep sadness at times. When I worry, it's generally about my family or if I'm being good enough and doing what people expect of me. I often wonder if I do enough at home, with my children, with my husband, with my church, or even do enough for myself. I try to keep a positive attitude about everything, but sometimes I need a little encouragement from people I trust. I have a special way of relating to people. I seem to be intuitive when it comes to something bothering them or if they're bursting at the seams with some exciting news. Some possible barriers for my communication are cultural differences. I was raised in a very small town, and that left me biased to certain types of culture. I wasn't really even culturally aware until I was well into my late adolescence. I'm not very assertive. I tend to be passive and let other people make decisions. I often don't have an opinion about things that I probably should have. In a conflict, my emotions get the better of me. I tend to get upset and tearful in emotional situations. High emotions interfere with my listening. When emotions in the stomach get out of whack from hurtful feelings, it presses on my heart, making it feel brick-like. And then it presses on my brain until it's flat, and it makes me say things that are unreasonable, hurtful, or even damaging. Ways I can overcome these barriers are avoiding generalizations about people in different cultures. I try to attend some more cultural events these days to expand my horizons. I practice gracism at all times. My opinions are worth hearing and they're valuable. I don't self-sabotage myself by waiting too long to speak up and express my thoughts clearly and concisely. I need to not have conversations in an emotional state. I have to calm down first, gather my thoughts, and address the problem, not the person. They're not attacking me personally, but most likely my actions. When someone else is flat brained, I just need to tell them that we'll address this issue when we've both had a chance to calm down, instead of engaging in the back and forth flat brain tango. As listeners, there's noise pollution that interferes with our communication. Some can be internal, hearing what we want to hear. As listeners, sometimes we want to hear things that fulfill our desires, but it's not really there. And biased listening is preforming opinions about importance or complexity of a message that distorts the message because of negative past experiences. Positive words bring on an emotional response that interfere with listening. Your brain is responding to a positive remark, so it turns out any other information. Past experiences, beliefs, or biases that come up when people push your buttons can cause you to be defensive and shut down any effective listening. Other external pollutions are if someone's personal appearance is distracting, they have a strong body odor, or they have weird mannerisms. Loud noises such as machines, yard equipment, radios, televisions, or loud conversations can interfere with our communication. And other pressures such as time, multitasking, or deadlines can cause us to rush a conversation. My action plan is to value the other person. The person speaking is valuable. Their ideas should be respected and not judged. Be sensitive to their identities. Don't interrupt people, even if you know what they're going to say. Don't finish someone else's sentences for them. It's not cute or romantic if you do it all the time. Practice mindful listening by keeping myself present in the reality or in the moment. And don't judge the person giving the message, but the message itself. Avoid making snap judgments about what the person should do, and avoid giving advice. And resist the temptation to be distracted by internal and external pollution. Knowing oneself is important to the interpersonal communication process. Even though we present an identity based on what other people expect from us, we still see the truth when we look inward to our true selves. I'm a good person. I am worthy of love. I have something important to say. I'm not the sum of my mistakes. I'm the born-again daughter of the King, Jesus Christ. And I'm so valuable that God sent His Son to die for me. My identity in Christ is secure. I've really learned so much about listening and communication. These are going to be books that I read over and over and over again and recommend to my clients and friends, especially my teenage daughters who tend to be flat-brained. Thank you, and you have a good evening.